In the quiet town of Meadow Creek, nestled between rolling green hills and a gently flowing river, lived a man named Arthur. Arthur wasn't a hero from a storybook, nor was he a famous artist or a brilliant scientist. He was a baker, and his life was as simple and warm as the bread he baked every morning. Every day, just as the first light of dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and orange, Arthur would be in his small bakery. The air would fill with the comforting smell of yeast, flour, and sugar. He knew his customers by name and their favorite treats by heart. There was Mrs. Gable, who always bought a crusty sourdough loaf for her husband's sandwiches. There were the Miller twins, who would press their noses against the glass, their eyes wide with excitement for the chocolate chip cookies. For Arthur, these small, predictable moments were the heartbeats of his day. His life was a gentle rhythm of kneading dough, watching it rise, and sliding it into the hot oven. He found a deep sense of satisfaction in the transformation, a simple mix of flour and water becoming something that brought smiles to people's faces. He believed there was a kind of magic in it, an everyday miracle that most people were too busy to notice. One sunny afternoon, a young man named Leo, dressed in a sharp suit and carrying a sleek briefcase, walked into the bakery. He looked out of place in the rustic, flour-dusted shop. Leo was from the city, a high-flying executive who had come back to Meadow Creek to sell his late grandmother's house. He looked around the bakery with a mixture of nostalgia and impatience. "I'll just have a black coffee," Leo said, his eyes glued to his phone. Arthur smiled warmly. "Of course. And perhaps a fresh croissant. They just came out of the oven." "My treat." Leo hesitated, then nodded. He took a bite of the warm, flaky pastry, and for a moment the tense look on his face softened. It tasted like his childhood, like slow Saturday mornings spent at his grandmother's table. "This is really good," Leo admitted, surprised. "Simple things often are," Arthur replied, wiping his hands on his apron. Over the next few weeks, Leo became a regular visitor. He was sorting through his grandmother's belongings, a task he found more emotionally draining than he'd expected. Each day, he would stop by the bakery, and each day, he and Arthur would talk. Leo spoke of his busy city life, of deadlines, meetings, and the constant pressure to achieve more. He spoke of a life that was fast, exciting, and he was beginning to realize incredibly lonely. Arthur listened patiently. He didn't offer advice or judgment. Instead, he talked about his own life. He spoke of the joy of seeing the first spring flowers bloom in his small garden, the pleasure of a quiet evening with a good book, and the deep contentment he felt knowing he was part of a community that cared. He talked about the beauty he found in the ordinary. "Don't you ever feel like you're missing out?" Leo asked one day, watching Arthur meticulously decorate a birthday cake. "Don't you want more?" Arthur paused, a small smile playing on his lips. "More of what, Leo?" "I have a roof over my head, work that I love, and friends who feel like family. The sun rises every morning, and the river keeps flowing. I have everything I need right here. What I have is not less. It's enough." Those words struck a chord with Leo. He had spent his entire adult life chasing more. A bigger salary, a fancier apartment, a higher position. But he never felt like he had enough. He was always looking toward the next goal, never appreciating the present moment. One morning, Leo came into the bakery with a different look in his eyes. He wasn't wearing a suit. Instead, he wore a simple shirt and jeans. "I sold my grandmother's house," he announced. "Ah," Arthur said, his voice gentle. "So you'll be heading back to the city soon?" "Actually," Leo said, leaning against the counter, "I was thinking of staying. A local company has an opening. It's a much smaller role, less pay, but I think it might be what I'm looking for." He looked around the warm, cozy bakery. "I've been so busy climbing a ladder that I never stopped to ask if it was leaning against the right wall." Arthur's eyes twinkled. He handed Leo a warm cinnamon roll, fresh from the oven. "Sometimes the greatest adventures are not in discovering new lands, but in seeing our own world with new eyes." Leo took a bite of the sweet, comforting pastry. For the first time in a very long time, he felt like he was home. He realized that a beautiful life wasn't about grand achievements or constant excitement. It was about finding joy in the small, simple, ordinary moments. It was about the warmth of a fresh loaf of bread, the kindness of a neighbor, and the peace of knowing you have enough. And so, in the quiet town of Meadow Creek, two men from different worlds found a shared understanding. They discovered that happiness isn't something to be chased in the distance, but something to be baked, shared, and savored right where you are. The beauty of life, they learned, was not in its extraordinary peaks, but in the gentle, lovely, and deeply satisfying rhythm of an ordinary day.